welcome to everyone to New York here and joining us tonight for a spirited debate and discussion on the future of the legal industry, sponsored by LexisNexis. My name is Daryl Cross. I'm Vice President at LexisNexis, and I visit about 300 firms a year to really just collect and share best practices on growth and profitability. We have assembled a renowned source of experts on the panel here that represents all the different stakeholders from the industry: clients, law firms, students, as well as the partner companies that support all three of them. And I think the economic turbulence of the last 2 years, we will all agree, has greatly accelerated the pace of change for the law firm business model. And one of the big themes that we have seen is really a sense of changing expectations. Clients expect different things from their firms than they did before. Law firms expect different things from the students that will become part of their talent pool. And also the students themselves expect different things from the firms they join, the clients they serve, as well as where their careers will take them. Now, in the past, these stakeholders took great comfort in the linear nature of our industry. Students went to school for 3 years, became associates, then partners, and an ever upward trajectory until retirement. No longer. Law firms and clients had a genuine understanding that good work costs money, and billing rates probably were going to go up year after year. No longer. And perhaps the law firms themselves changed expectations, where we once could just build offices and hire people, and with leverage and stringent billing requirements, be ever more profitable. No longer. So with these changing expectations, we were curious, and LexisNexis commissioned a study where we actually will release the survey results to you a little bit later. They became public today. But what we found were some surprising results. One of them being, when we asked corporate counsel, for example, 71% said they did not think law firms were doing enough to address some of the pressures under their economic model today. Conversely, 77% of law firms said that corporate counsel were much too concerned about controlling costs, and that it was at the cost of quality as well as long-term benefit. So what about the future generation of lawyers? Well, we asked them, and 65% of them said they did not feel adequately prepared for the business skills and learning the business acumen necessary to be a practicing lawyer in today's environment. So these are some of the things that we'll be talking today. Some of the topics that we will talk about include the state of the industry, matching fees with value, the future of the business model, as well as talent management, and of course, predictions for the future that hopefully will raise a few eyebrows along the way. The comfort that came from predictability, as well as precedent, has been conspicuously absent for quite some time. And we'll be addressing some of those changes today. Now let's take a moment to meet our panelists. Starting over here on my far right, Rich Baer, who is the Executive Vice President, General Counsel, and Chief Administrative Officer for Quest. Next to him, Pete Kalis, the Chairman and Global Managing Partner for K&L Gates Law Firm. Michael Walsh, President and Chief Executive Officer of U.S. Legal Markets for LexisNexis. Michael Helfer, who is the General Counsel and Corporate Secretary for Citigroup. Bill Henderson, Professor of Law at Indiana University. Tom Sabatino, former Executive Vice President and General Counsel at Schering-Plough. And last but not least, Martin Kniff, Partner at Howry and Chairman of the Attorney Training and Professional Development Committee at Howry in Washington, D.C. Please join me in welcoming our panelists. Now, we don't have a lot of time today, and there's a lot of topics we want to get to, and I'm sure a lot that the panelists want to chime in for, so we'll just dive right in. And we'll start with Pete. Just a simple question. What's different? What's the most permanent change that you've seen that's occurred in the last 6 months that you think is going to continue on for the future of the law firm?
Let me respond in a few different ways. First is not to quibble, but 6 months is simply not significant. It is not a sufficient foundation to draw conclusions about permanence or what's ephemeral. You can't even talk about a trend when you're talking about 6 months. To talk about changes that are in any sense indelible, I think you have to ride through the bust, and then you have to ride through the boom, or whatever we will come to understand as a boom to follow. It is a cycle. the institutions involved all lived through, or at least the ones that survive, all stages of the cycle. Let's wait a bit before we talk about permanence. Secondly, the use of the term industry, you know, what's changing in the industry, insofar as that is targeted at law firms, its underlying assumption is that there is some monolithic community of law firms that approach the client interface in absolutely or substantially the same ways. That, frankly, is fallacy. And the commentators who seek to draw great conclusions about law firms because of their experience with law firms are probably using the wrong law firms. It's clearly the case that there are law firms out there that for a long time have viewed, and I'm talking 10 years and more, not 18 months, have viewed fees as tied to a value proposition, have viewed the manner of paying fees as a cafeteria choice of the client. If the law firm doesn't get paid properly for its value, it ought to get a new client. If the client is dealing with a law firm that wants to be paid more than the value added, it needs a new law firm. That's been going on a long time for some law firms. Admittedly, other law firms are just getting it now. If we can use the term industry sufficiently expansively to include legal education, and from your introduction I gather we can, I think the one item that arguably has been exposed in a time frame of 6 months has been the rigidity and of the legal education model. Those of you in the audience old enough to remember I Love Lucy may remember the episode of Lucy and Ethel working in the candy factory, trying to keep up with this constant conveyor belt of pieces of candy, and they couldn't. And they were stuffing them in their mouths, they were putting them down their dresses, anything other than putting them in the boxes. Well, that's the way it feels if you're a law firm, or I'm sure a law department, with this endless conveyor belt of law students. The fact is, law firms, contrary to what you'll hear a little later, have been extremely nimble in this environment. They have cut back hiring radically. They have deferred arrivals. They have laid off associate staff, and in many cases, partners. They've dramatically cut their cost structures. They've deferred expenditures and have dealt, in the grand scheme of things, pretty much on a dime, many of them anyhow, with these exigent circumstances. And we're taking an unfair hit when we're criticized monolithically for not addressing these issues. Finally, you know, I really do believe, because I read what public companies are reporting, that many of those companies that house critics of law firms have performed for their owners through the Great Recession in a profoundly inferior manner as compared to how my enterprise has performed for its owners. So why should I credit their criticism? Why should I change my business model when my owners and the clients they serve apparently think we're doing pretty well?